Hi, Dr. Lamb. This is my first reflection for our math methods class, and tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about standards. Here in Texas, we have the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, also known as the TEKS, which are a specific set of standards that tell the teachers exactly what the students must not only know, but also be able to do. Across the U.S., many other states have adopted Common Core State Standards, which basically do the same thing as our TEKS, but they just have a different name. Math is a required part of the curriculum for all students in Texas, and the TEKS tell the teachers what the students must know and what they must be able to do, but it's up to the individual teacher to decide how they're going to teach the standards in their own classrooms. Teachers develop their own personal style of teaching based on input from school administrators, professional development workshops, past experiences, continuing education, and even other grade level teachers in the schools where they work. I'm doing my field work this semester in a 4th grade math and science class, and I am way outside of my comfort level. As I was reading our text, I noticed that it points out that you, or in this case myself, are one of your most important resources, and that we as teachers, we really need to think about how our beliefs in math are either positively or negatively affecting our students. The bottom line is that different teachers have different instructional methods, and that's okay as long as at the end of the day the students know and can do what's set forth in the TEKS for their grade levels in math. To determine when students start learning about place value and eventually master the topic, teachers need to look no further than the TEKS. As I just mentioned, the TEKS specifically tell us what the students need to know and be able to do. And since the TEKS are available on the TEA website, they're organized by grade level and subject, they're very easy for teachers to reference. Essentially, when you write a lesson plan, that's where you start. Place value is specifically mentioned 24 times in the TEKS, starting in 1st grade and ending in 5th grade. There are a handful of other standards and skills that don't use the actual word place value, but use words like ones, tens, hundreds, things that we know that are still referencing place value. The TEKS very clearly state that the primary focal goal in 1st grade is the understanding and applying place value. So that's where instruction begins, and there are basic place value standards in place in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. At the end of 5th grade, students should be able to apply place value and identify part-to-whole relationships and equivalents. Hence, they've mastered place value. I did check all the standards for K through 6, and there's no mention of place value in either kindergarten or 6th grade. Instructional standards is something that we've studied in every class I've taken in the School of Education, including this one. In Texas, we call them TEKS. In other states, they call them Common Core. It really just depends on where you live. But they're in place to ensure a minimum threshold of what students should know and what they should be able to do. And since they're all similarly aligned, it does create consistency, and that really helps a student if they have to move from one state to another. The flip side is that they're tied to high stakes standardized testing, which is a big buzzword right now in education, because the test results can have such far-reaching effects. You can take the data, you can compare local school to local school, you can compare districts, you can compare states, and you can compare schools all across the U.S., and you can even compare U.S. schools to other schools in other nations. Teachers are judged based on their students' test scores. Schools get funding based on test scores. There's a lot that rides on test scores. But even with all the debates surrounding testing, I do believe that standards, they serve a purpose. They ensure that there's a clear set of skills and knowledge that a teacher must teach and a student must learn. As a teacher, it's a guide for me, and it lets me know what's expected of me. I'll wrap up my reflection with this thought. In one of my very first education classes that I took, I had a professor, and she had been in the curriculum part of the administration for about 20 years in the Conroe School District. She had experience in a classroom as well. She had a lot to say about testing and standards. And this is a quote that she told us, and I wrote it down, so I'll leave you with this. Don't teach with the sole focus of your students just passing the test. If you teach the standards and teach them well, you won't have to worry because your students will pass the test.